Hello, the internet! Welcome to How to Plan It Forward, our new instructional series that'll help you make great videos. Videos that tickle the internet like a giant digital baby. For anyone who's unfamiliar with Plan It Forward, it's a website that connects innovators and storytellers with movers and shakers. People who can take your idea way beyond the screen. Now, visual stories typically have a few features that make them entertaining and visually interesting. A good character helps, some great visuals, and a point you're trying to make. Number one is a good character. All the greats on Plan It Forward, just like the best movies of all time, revolve around someone authentic and well-spoken who you can get behind. Aside from Sling Blade, and Snatch, and all Guy Ritchie movies, and Marlon Brando's later work. Aside from all those exceptions, all great movies have a well-spoken character, especially in documentary, when what your character says is your most valuable resource. Now, you can't always find a great character, but you should always be on the lookout. Who do you know who cares deeply about global issues or has got tons of innovative ideas? If you can find a good character, people will listen until cows literally come into their homes. If you don't believe me, watch a TED Talk. Not before you watch this video, but after. Now, you can find a good character on a college campus, or by talking to your friends and family, or just by talking to random strangers about whatever subject you're interested in. Eventually, somebody's gonna know somebody. Your character doesn't even need to be a person. It can be a location or a great piece of data. If you can find somebody who can talk about that thing, you're good to go. Now, when I first started out with the looking process, I like to pick up what the ancients called a newspaper, or a magazine. These are full of stories. Or you can just go online to your favorite blog. Just because something's already been written about doesn't mean you can't shoot a video on it or use it as a starting point to make your first call. Tell them you're an amateur filmmaker or a reporter working for Plan It Forward. You may just be some guy or some gal, but you need to come off as some guy or some gal. You see the difference? It's not even lying. The moment you get some equipment and make your first call, you're a storyteller. There's nothing separating you from the professionals now that equipment's so cheap and all this information is available online. Chances are, if the person you're trying to interview doesn't get asked every single week, they're gonna wanna talk to you. Video still has a new car smell. It's interesting. People wanna get involved in it. So use that to your advantage. Now, before you go into your interview, do some research. Treat it just like a job interview. The more you know going in, the more important they'll feel and the more prepared you'll feel. Okay, the number two thing you need for your video, narration or interviews. If you remember one shorthand for good narrative, it's this. Focus on what the character's going after. What is it that they want to achieve? Is it a solution or a new technology or change in the government? Whatever it is, ask them why they want it so bad and what it feels like to want something that bad. We as the audience are experiencing everything from their point of view, so the more we learn about their emotional experience, the more engaged we'll be with the content. Ask them what they're afraid of. Ask them what they go to bed thinking about at night, or waking up in the morning. These are the kind of questions you want to ask. If you remember a second shorthand for video, it's this. Have your character follow the hero's journey. Heroic characters are incredibly persuasive, and their stories always follow an age-old pattern. The character is introduced, the character encounters some sort of obstacle, and then the character returns to normal, having changed. That's as old as Gilgamesh, The Odyssey, Iron Man. I bet you half the movies in theaters right now follow that pattern in some way or another. So you can do worse than to copy that. Third tip, transcribe your interviews. I actually type them out myself. It takes a little bit of time, but it makes me really familiar with the content. Then I can go through and highlight the best bits and start putting them in order in my head. You're basically separating the diamonds from the rough, or the marshmallows from the Lucky Charms, depending on what you value in life. 9 times out of 10, your video should make sense without any visuals at all. There's a reason we can listen to the radio without visuals, but we can't watch a movie without sound. We're narrative creatures. So your goal is to take all your interviews and narration and weave them together into one long stream of consciousness that makes sense on its own. So you've got interviews, but they meander all over the place. How do you make that into one stream of consciousness? The simplest way to do it is just to tell your story chronologically. For example, I got into farming for this reason. Then this happened. Then this happened. Now here we are. Here's how I feel about it. Simple. That's an easy story to tell when you're just starting out. And it's a good one. But once you want to get more creative, just watch documentaries and see how people are flowing ideas together in interesting ways. There are no rules in this department as long as whatever you put out makes sense. That's it for part 1 of how to tell a story. For more about including great visuals and making sure that your video has a point, click here for part 2.